All right, everybody. This is Gavin Mehl. We got Alex Fauvel back on with us today. We're going to talk everything about actually what Bitcoin actually is, what's the purpose of it, how it works, how he got into the space, and now his experience as a full-time entrepreneur in Bitcoin and leaving his job back in 2015. And it's good to see you in person there in London, Alex. How you doing?
Thanks, Gavin. Yeah, it was good to see you too. Glad you made it back to San Fran. Okay, I'm doing good.
Yeah, we had some good times. It was really a cool. We had some fun at the nightclub and the bar that we went to, and just kind of roaming around the city. So it
Salsa.
was really, it was a lot
Yeah.
of fun, man. You left your. So it sounds like you left your career full time in 2015, and you were seeking
Yeah.
as an entrepreneur in Bitcoin. So can you
Yeah.
take me through what happened there, and then it sounds like you've got some slides to share with us today about Bitcoin. So yeah, what happened in 2015?
Yeah. So I saw Bitcoin first in 2013, so I didn't do it immediately, but it was very quick after. And I just knew I needed to be involved because Bitcoin is like the most important thing in the world at the moment. In 2008, it must have felt, if you saw it immediately, incredible. But yeah, I went into a cryptocurrency hedge fund in 2017. That was my first full-time job, to analyze what cryptos were because I knew Bitcoin was loving that. And then things went wrong in 2017. And I had to figure out what the hell crypto was in the wider ecosystem. Um, yeah, and I hated every minute of it almost because it never made any sense. And I know why it never made any sense. But explaining that to a general audience is almost impossible. But that might be what we're going to try and do today. So we'll
That's a
see.
good start right there. So it made no sense. Uh, uh, what explaining Bitcoin, or it made no sense with the hedge fund?
Oh,
What part?
explaining crypto, all the modifications that these networks made to Bitcoin, they were always trying to solve a problem that I couldn't recognize with Bitcoin. They said Bitcoin had these problems, so you need to modify whatever Bitcoin was to give it a fighting chance. But the only issue I ever saw with Bitcoin is that the block size was too small, and there was a group that controlled it that was unwilling to scale it for one reason or another. But yeah, as soon as you kind of realize that all of crypto ends up just being securities frauds, Bitcoin it's in a different world in terms of how it was released, how it's constructed, and what it can do.
All right. So is that a good place for us to start? It sounds like you have some slides that you wanted to
Sure.
share.
Uh,
So we're looking at a black screen that says Bitcoin on it.
yeah. I'm sure your audience is very familiar with where it's inspired from, but it's not important. So Bitcoin, it's in the name. You've got bit, data, and coin, money. Uh, it was invented by Satoshi, right? But Satoshi is nowhere to be seen, apparently. He's missing in action. This is the official story now. He's anon, uh, but does it really matter? Why does the world need Bitcoin? Well, in 2024, we still live in a
What data was
world
used
like
to
this.
train Sora?
We used publicly available data and licensed data.
So, videos on YouTube?
I'm actually not sure about that.
Okay. Videos from Facebook, Instagram?
If they were publicly available, publicly available to use, there might be the data, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm not confident about it.
What about Shutterstock? I know you guys have a deal with them.
I'm just not going to go into the details of the data that was
So Sora, is
used,
that a AI?
or licensed data.
So Sora is Meta's AI. This is one of the chief executives of Meta, and I think specifically AI. And she can't answer the question of what the models we were trained on. So our data is everywhere. We've put it there, but we have basically no way of getting it back until we potentially use courts. So there's, you know, this entire issue with AI at the moment, and it's almost an inherent problem of how the internet works.
What data was
But
used to train Sora?
if we check in on what's going on in money in
Yeah,
2024,
the fiscal challenges, etc., that are there. So very focused on being cost effective. We actually fund ourselves and then work out what dividend is needed to pay. So we kind of work, it's a great business to be in, central banking. You print money and people believe it, and touch wood. And
Sounds like a great business. We print money and people believe it. Central banking.
exactly, central
Does sound like a
banking
pretty
in a
good
nutshell.
business. That is a
So
very,
this is a real select committee from New Zealand, right? I mean, it's out in the open now.
telling it like it is,
everyone
huh?
knows. Yeah. So, I mean, back in 2008, when you had Bitcoin come from a financial crisis, it seemed like divine intervention. You know, we've got this provably fair timestamp of when the network was released, and no, the founder didn't take any coins themselves, but probably because they knew no one was watching.
Welcome to the BBC's
but
News at 1.
This is the
For the
headline.
second time in just 3 months, the taxpayer is pumping billions of pounds into Britain's banks. This morning, the government unveiled a package of measures designed to get banks lending money again to businesses and individuals, and underwritten by the taxpayer. And as if more proof were needed about how badly the banking sector is doing at the moment, the Royal Bank of Scotland has announced record losses of over £7 billion. Well, Richard Scott is here for more. Richard.
Thanks, Kate. Well, after its opening salvo, the government has now fired a broadside against the economic downturn.
Effectively, nothing's changed in 15 years. You know, like Bitcoin was supposed to be the revolution, and where is it? You know, like why did the person run and leave? So that one of their last messages 2 days before they left was WikiLeaks has kicked the hornet's nest. Okay. Now, when I saw Bitcoin and I was kind of like looking at the news and stuff back then, I pretty liked WikiLeaks, right? I was like, oh, WikiLeaks is a good thing. This person clearly has a grudge against WikiLeaks because, you know, they kicked the hornet's nest and then left. For those of you that don't know, WikiLeaks started accepting Bitcoin just shortly before this, and this quote was taken from a forum post when Satoshi was told that about the PC World news article about it. So Satoshi's left, missing in action. Is he RIP? Well, does it really matter? Let's have a look at what they were trying to tell us. Satoshi means clever, witty, intelligent. Nakamoto means central in origin. Now, does it really matter if it was made by the Central Intelligence Agency? If it's transparent? I mean, if it's not Craig, right? Let's just put it out there. If it's not Craig, because we have a court judgment, maybe we should start taking this conspiracy theory properly. JP Morgan, who everyone kind of sort of understands has some sort of a relationship with these intelligence agencies, was famous for saying millionaires don't use astrology, billionaires do. So based on your previous interview with, was it Matt Walsh, David Walsh?
Yeah, Matt Walsh.
Yeah, Matt Walsh. You know, I think people are starting to look in the right direction now. Is the universe speaking to us? That's basically the question we're asking. Maybe it wasn't the CIA. Maybe we do live in a simulation and this was a document passed through electrons or interdimensionally, whatever. We don't know. It doesn't matter. Does it scale? Is it useful? What did Satoshi think? What did Satoshi tell us? Well, Satoshi's comments in chronological order on scaling are effectively in 2008. The scaling question came up immediately. As the network grows beyond a certain point, it would be left to more and more specialized specialists with server farms of specialist hardware, right? The next comment on it, July. At equilibrium, many nodes will be server farms. So they're, you know, telling us that it's server farms. It's going to end up in server farms. The current system where every user is a network node is not the intended configuration for large scale. The design supports letting users just be users. The more burden it is to run a node, the fewer nodes there will be, the fewer nodes there will be big server farms. The rest will be client nodes that only do transactions and don't generate. What's a client node? Do we know?
Client node, I think that's, is that like a Raspberry Pi?
Well, potentially, but Satoshi also said this. We should always allow at least some free transactions. But the fee situation is not free. It's $5 to $60. That doesn't even beat, Western Union at some points. So has it scaled? No. Why? This is why. Because Satoshi in the white paper said the only way to confirm the absence of a transaction is to be aware of all transactions. This is if you're running a node and you've got a chain of blocks. That's the current thinking. This is the chain tip. This is the client node that the Lightning Network people would like you to believe. The current chain tip, block n+1, is private. That's kept by the miner, which is a big server farm. And the golden rule, the fake golden rule, is that everyone needs everything to be decentralized. That's the narrative. That's the why you have to run a node.
Where they say
So their chain tip,
everybody has to download the blockchain.
yes, exactly. The whole thing, everyone's transactions, all spent transactions and current unspent transactions. The chain tip, block N. But this is the current reality of the Bitcoin network. We have server farms that are just hashing on the block headers. They don't need any transactions to run that server farm. And then you have these small computers that need all the transactions, right? I mean, this is upside down. When everyone needs everything, you move as slow as the weakest player. So we're running a network at the size of a Raspberry Pi with the back end of a massive data warehouse size server farm of computers just hashing this block header. In 2017, during SegWit, they basically said these Raspberry Pis control you because they're watching everything that the other guys are doing. And they're going to use Lightning and other blockchains, but I'm going to store my wealth on that one, because it was the first, it was the immaculate one. It was the divine intervention one. So we've got this current situation where you've got this big amorphous blob of a blockchain with block headers and transactions. And you've got this Lightning thing saying, well, I can do transactions better than Bitcoin. So let's have a look at Lightning. What's Lightning? Well, Lightning has these Raspberry Pi nodes with, these blockchain on them, and they pass account numbers, transactions between themselves without ever touching the blockchain. So what is it? Effectively, it's an IOU for Bitcoin, and it's effectively exactly the same as the current financial system, which is gold in a vault and banks passing IOUs between them, right? I mean, they can explain it all the way technically however they want, right? Legally, it's this. Technically, at the bare bones, it's this as well.
You're describing Lightning Network on that slide?
Yeah.
Where it's
Yeah.
it's simulating, it's a representation, it sounds like, of the transaction.
Exactly. So the transaction is created and then it's like a check, right? But the first thing you do when you receive a check is the check has your name on it. You take it to a bank and the bank settles it. And the bank then talks to other banks to find out where your account is. And then depending on how big the transaction is, might, go through intermediaries or depending whether they've got to go through borders. This is the same thing because you're passing a transaction between each node that
So
they
it's
like to
similar
call a client
to
node, a Lightning node.
what we're doing now then, but where we have to go to the settlement bank for all these transactions, right?
Yes.
Is that
Yeah.
okay?
They're basically making it so that Bitcoin becomes the settlement bank, but everyone else uses the regular system. But this is a new system, right? I mean, why are we rebuilding the system that made people passionate about Bitcoin? Like you speak to people about Bitcoin and crypto now, and they're like, oh yeah, I used to be into it, and then it kind of didn't do anything. It sometimes costs $5 to send a transaction. I'm just trying to send $100 for pocket money or something to my
Okay.
kid once a month or
What's the
whatever.
next slide?
Too much. This is what you get in a corrupt world, right? This is why Bitcoin was created in the first place, because this system is corrupt. They would never allow it to scale because it makes them obsolete. Bitcoin is a game of king of the hill, and not everyone can be king. Not everyone can run a node, and that's an issue. Why did they do this? Because they need the ETFs and the CBDCs.
So the
That's
motive
how
is
they
the
get the control.
ETFs.
Yes, they need to recreate the exact same system that they have with this new technology. So they reverse engineered it and did it very effectively. Hats off to them. Congratulations.
That
But
are you referring to the Bitcoin ETF and the coming Ethereum ETF? That
the entire system is built exactly the same as the current financial system. It's just that we're walking in slow motion to it. We were born into these systems. Bitcoin is being created into this system before our very eyes. It's just taking a few decades. But we're 25, we're 15 years in now. So we've still got a little bit of time. So what are client nodes? Clients work a little bit differently. They have the assumption once a transaction is in a block, it has been verified by at least one node, right? So using a different frame of thinking from that same white paper, we have a chain of block headers that everyone needs, which grows at about 4.2 megabytes per year, right? I mean, our storage capabilities and bandwidth is doubling like every 18 months. And this is static, right? So this is 0.1 or whatever it is. It's a linear relationship in terms of scaling. So thinking a bit of a different way, if we have the current chain tip, we can use effectively what is known as SPV, where we do not store the interior hashes. It's in the white paper. We know the transaction is in the blockchain because it has a path to cut the current blockchain tip. And for those of you that don't know, in maths, you have a one-way function, which means you can only you create a data and then you put an algorithm over it and you have data on the other side, and you can just chain that along. That's effectively what you're doing. So everyone has the same state right at the end of the chain tip. But that's very small. These block headers are only 80 bytes, remember? So, if you got the latest one, which is published every 10 minutes, then you know that any transaction that went into that block before it is accepted by the network and it hasn't been double spent. There's actually a quote about that in the white paper that I haven't put in here, I don't think. So what are client nodes? Well, a client creates transactions and verifies the block headers. The miners, the nodes, verify transactions and create the block headers, and they pass these things in between them, right? That's effectively how BTC would say, yes, that works as like that, but they send us the full block so we can verify everything that they're doing. True, but every miner is verifying what every other miner is doing. So as a user, we don't care about every other user or even really the miners. The miners will take care of themselves. We, as users, need to take care of ourselves. The miners probably aren't going to help us, although they typically do what's in their financial interest. And if we've got enough users, it'll be within their financial interest. So to use this system where we are deleting things from the blockchain, we take a transaction that has this path, and we send it, and we create a new transaction, sorry. So that circle is now a square signifying spent, and we send two transactions effectively to the other party so that they know that the transaction we're spending is in the blockchain. And then that person sends it off to the blockchain, like the check, except instead of sending it between all those middlemen, We send it directly to the merchant, and then the merchant sends it to the network or the node that
And
they
who-
trust that is
Who's
mining.
the middleman? Who validates the transaction to,
So
who's the,
there technically isn't a middleman in this because the two phones are payer and payee, and the server is just verifying that that is something that has occurred, right? So they're not necessarily a middleman; they're just like a notary stamping it, going, "This follows all the rules," and they take their fee for that. This is why one of the reasons why it's decentralized is because it's just a service that anyone can spin up. It's like spinning up a carpentry shop and making chairs, right?
and that's
Anyone
what
can do that.
mining is.
Yes,
Got
exactly.
it.
And the miners they update the ledger, they create the next block, and then they send the path back to the client. And for completeness, that can be sent back to the originator of the transaction so that they know that that transaction is now completely spent and settled. They probably need it for accounting purposes. But what this means is that each client only needs the transactions they're involved in. So it scales with the number of devices, right? If every phone has its own transactions, then you don't necessarily even need to go to the servers that are hosting the blockchain to get it. If the person is online, you can just ping them and they will give it to you. So it's a very different sort of system where you are still using the Bitcoin as a settlement layer, but not everything has to go on blockchain and all this other stuff. But Satoshi's hiding. He's not explaining all this. And if he is explaining it, he's not doing a very good job. But now you might really kind of understand why, because the world's corrupt, right? I mean, they've rebuilt the financial system onto Bitcoin. So maybe we should relook at that theory of central intelligence
Tomingo,
agency.
not okay.
Nakamoto. He's a Japanese philosopher who is famous for this basically one quote because when he was around, it was difficult for information to get out of Japan. They were quite in isolationary stages. But he said, hiding is the beginning of lying and stealing. And Satoshi's hiding, right? And guess what's happened? Everyone's stealing.
As seen on Netflix.
It's CoffeeZilla. If you don't know him, you should go and find out who he is. He's basically a one-man private investigator. Well, he's got a small team now, but he's annihilated so many different cryptos. I can't even count them anymore. Some of them are obviously scams, but this is what happens when people have a new tool and they think they can hide. They scam because it's king of the hill. Everyone wants to be king. But he's also famous for saying this. He was very critical of Shintoism, apparently. It's a doctrine that keeps secrets and hence has high likelihood of theft and fabrication.
Like
Which,
secret
in my opinion,
societies.
this is exactly the problem we have with Bitcoin, in that it's got a secretive founder who keeps secrets and potentially fabricates things, or the people that he left in charge weren't necessarily on his side and stole it and fabricated. Maybe we'll never know, but I think me and you
Satoshi,
believe
clever,
something on that.
witty, intelligent.
So maybe
Nakamoto.
we need to start thinking a little differently. I don't personally believe that the CIA created Bitcoin, partly because I think if they knew if they knew how to invent Bitcoin, they would not have invented it. It doesn't necessarily go along with their interests because they're all on black budgets, and that's my name. And that might be interesting for other people as well, but maybe that'll be another video.
Nice. Thank you, Alex.
That was it.
That's a great slideshow. So it's an overview of like the whole story of Bitcoin and then the simple fundamentals. It sounds like on how the scaling has not worked and now how it could work. So what is that right? So I have a couple questions for you that are a little bit off point, but so yeah, what else do you have to say about this for people regarding the slides?
It's all already out there in the open, but they make it difficult for you to find. And it's our job in the BSV community, if it's basically just the BSV community still watching, to get that information out there. At the moment, it's been tough over the past 15 years, but I think any and all content creation at this point is good. And we need to come together and push that forward. We can't rely on a special point in time for people to kind of just go, oh, right, yeah, okay, now I'm going to start talking about Bitcoin SV. It's got to be, we've got to give them a reason to talk about it. And at the moment, there isn't really a reason to.
There isn't a reason, huh? Okay, well, what
Well, the
advice?
only reason the only reason I say that is because everyone seems to not have a reason to talk about it. I've seen on Twitter people kind of going, "Oh, well, I'm done," and well, that's quitters never win, I think, as we said in London.
Quitters never win and winners never quit. That's the whole thing. So it's, hey, I get it, quit, go ahead. That's it seems like there were some people there that we don't need to we can't really mention at this point in time that out of your country that were there. They're definitely not quitting, and there were some real huge, humongous fish that are all
There was
eyes.
the pool is getting bigger. There was a report commissioned by the Bitcoin Association with was it the Boston Consulting Group that was just released yesterday or today. So the pool is getting bigger in the background, but we need something in the foreground as well,
Right.
and that's up to the individuals to start businesses and actually get something out there.
Businesses. So like that's what I wanted to ask you. So you've been an entrepreneur for 10 years now, and almost 10 years in the space. So what advice can you give an entrepreneur who wants to start a business in Bitcoin?
You've got to find a co-founder as fast as possible. The Bitcoin community is very active, and people are always looking for something to do. If you've got a little bit of money, it's probably worth talking to someone in the Bitcoin community to talk about building your product. If you can properly explain it, you can get it done for quite cheaply. But these people are very knowledgeable. So if they don't necessarily like your idea, they're probably going to tell you. But don't let that put you off, because everyone gets told no, and you never do anything unless you actually persevere with it.
So you got to find a co-founder, and that co-founder should be a developer? Or
Ideally, yeah. If you're already a developer, you've got an advantage, but you can't do everything by yourself, contrary to what other people in the BSB community might say. You definitely need help. And one of the reasons why you need a co-founder is because it's proof of first sale. If you can sell your vision to someone enough for them to join you on your journey, it's a big step in the right direction for people thinking this is going to work. Especially with something like Bitcoin, because otherwise you're just a solo crazy guy in the corner talking about how you're gonna revolutionize a industry because you've got some secret knowledge. You need a team, you need feedback, you need confidence in you and your idea.
So it sounds like you got to find a co-founder, get involved in the community, and then sell your idea to that person. And there's so many ideas, right? I mean, like one of them, a friend of mine's doing right now is tokenizing real estate. Now he's using Ethereum. He thinks it's better on Ethereum. And I think that's great for him. I don't know, but it seems like they have more, whatever. But it's a great concept, tokenizing real estate. Serious business.
Yeah, it's a serious business. I think if you know the real estate industry, it's a perfect industry to get into. If you're a new entrant, you know, it's going to be almost impossible. But at the same, and the reason it's impossible if you're a new entrant is because blockchain is kind of an unserious thing. It's turned into this unserious thing because of all these NFTs and scams and stuff. But in reality, there are enterprises still looking at it because, you know, it's, if you talk to, you know, intelligent computer scientists, they will say there is something there, you know, so we just haven't really found a proper use case for it yet because every system that they've tried has never worked. And that's, in my opinion, simply because they don't know how to use Bitcoin.
And so at the conference, you know, I noticed that a lot of people were playing your game at the conference, and that there was a lot of excitement with it. Like literally a lot of yelling and a lot of a very positive excitement. So what can you tell people about that?
Well, it's interesting because in the conference room we had a booth and we were, you know, playing it when people came up and stuff. And on the end of the first day, we played it in the central kind of pit with the chairs, and we had like I think maybe 15 people playing at one point, and then we were kicked out and everyone split up, so we didn't get the chance to play it until the pub at the very end altogether. And you know, I kind of just left it on the table after introducing it to people. And I came back 2-3 hours later and people were still playing it, new people. So the table had turned over and everyone was still playing it. And it was really good to see. I just wish that happens more in the future. Yeah, but in the actual conference at the booth, because you've got a small number of people, I tried actually explaining the physical card game and playing it with some investors, and they kind of looked at the card game and went, but that's not serious, you know, no one's going to take you seriously with that card game. But the platform's interesting. And I get it. But if you'd have taken a look at MySpace and Facebook back in the day, you would have gone, but this isn't serious, you know. People aren't going to use this, and you know, here we are with Facebook so many years later.
Yeah, it sounds like there's a lot of buzz with that card game for sure. People really got excited about it. It sounds like it's like a way of bonding, a social connection that they get.
We've sold out of the regulars, so we've got two versions, a white one and a black one that's not safe for work. The not safe for work one is still for sale. I think we've got 15 left or something. And it's got the same format, so you can still play the regular version. You just got to take out these red cards if you're playing with sensitive people. Make sure you don't, because if you buy it, open it up, take a look at the red questions, and you'll know the types of people that you might want to play that with. So, but they're your, you know, close friends. They aren't, or strangers in a pub. They're not necessarily family time questions.
And where can people find more about this, Alex? How do people?
Dark2Light.xyz. That's the website. We're also on Twitter, Dark2Light XYZ. My favorite number is number 2, so of course it's the number 2 instead of the word. And yeah, that's probably the best place to find us.
Nice. Oh, and then also tomorrow we're doing a Twitter space. It's going to be just a town hall, and so where people can come in and I want to do it like on Wednesdays, I think. So we're going to start tomorrow and then roll with it, man. So 9 a.m. Pacific. How many hours ahead of Pacific are you? You're like what? I don't know.
9. I mean, it's 12:30 at the moment. Well, 20 past 12 at the moment.
So you're
for
like
me.
about 10 hours, 11 hours ahead, I think. So tomorrow your time at like 7 or 8 p.m. and then 9 a.m. my time. We'll be on Twitter, and a lot, you know, people are going to be jumping in just about an open forum, you know, town hall style. So it'll be you know, questions and answers and all sorts of things. So I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.
That's my sort of ball game. Questions and
Yeah,
answers.
let's do it. All right, Alex, anything else before we wrap?
No, that's good. Good to see you again. Cheers for the chat. And
Yeah, good to
hopefully
see you,
I'll speak to
everybody.
you
Be
again
sure to
soon.
check out that Alex's website there regarding the game, and follow him and myself on Twitter. And we will see you at the top.